Hello, I'm R.A. Spratt, and I want to welcome people joining us this week on the Yoto podcast platform. Now, just so you know, most of the bedtime stories I tell here are standalone stories. But over the last year, we have been dipping in and out of the epic story of Odysseus, the hero from ancient Greek mythology. And this week, I'm going to be telling the second last installment of that tale. So if you can jump in right here, that'll be fine. I'm sure you'll pick it all up. But if you did want to go back to the beginning and start from the first episode, you can search back through the episodes. The first episode's called Odysseus, as told by Nanny Piggins, and it dropped on January 8th, 2025. Or you can go back and listen to any of the other episodes. You're going to find fairy tales, myths, legends, and mysteries. I hope you enjoy them all. Now let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Bedtime Stories with me, R.A. Spratt. All right, well, I'm at home here in Bowral. It is freezing cold and yet gorgeous, blue skies. Everything is a bit frosty this morning. I'm off on holiday. When this drops, I'll be on holiday. So, and I have been working too hard and I am sick. But miraculously, I've got a really sore throat, but miraculously it's not my voice box, which is where I normally hurt my throat because I obviously do lots of talking for my job. But miraculously, it's not my voice box. But anyway, I need to go back to bed. So instead of writing a story for next week, I am going to read to you from my book that just came out, Friday, March 13. I'm going to read to you one of the little mini mysteries. Thank you so much to everyone who's come out and supported the book by coming to the launches or just going and buying the book. It's a huge help. It's amazing. The first week it came out, it made the bestseller list, which for a 13th book in a series is it's taken everyone by surprise, but it's a testament to all of you listening and how much you've supported me. So thank you very much. And if you haven't bought it yet, please do. It all helps with the podcast and helping me maintain this crazy lifestyle where I sit here and tell stories to you and to myself and to the dog. All right, well, let's just get into it. You don't want to hear all about that. You want a story. So let's do this. So this is from Friday, March 13 in plain sight, and I'm going to read to you Chapter 12, The Vegetable Wars. Now, there's maybe some spoilers in this, so if you are going to go and buy and read the whole book, you might want to... Oh, no, stuff it. There's not really any big spoilers. Basically, Friday's been looking for Binky and Ingrid, and you'll see what happens. Here we go. There's the school bell for the school down the street. It stopped. Okay, let's start. Friday, Melanie and Ian walked up... by the way, this is in New York. Friday, Melanie and Ian walked up Malcolm X Boulevard from the subway station. It was a busy neighbourhood with wide footpaths. The boulevard was lined with shops and restaurants that reflected the multicultural diversity of the neighbourhood. Harlem had long been associated with African-American culture, but it was a melting pot of new immigrants as well. Puerto Rican, Mexican, Southeast Asian and African cuisines were all represented by the variety of small businesses. When they turned into 134th Street, the tone changed. The east-west streets were residential, with the 3-story brownstone buildings so strongly associated with New York. This was where families lived, perhaps not in whole brownstones to themselves, but with each floor separated into different apartments. Family cars were parked on the street. A basketball hoop was chained to a light pole outside a church. It was a homey place. It wasn't hard to spot the community garden. It was literally a beacon of light on the street because the garden was in a gap between the buildings, so the sun shone through and the greenery of the garden glowed like an oasis of optimism. Friday had expected that it would be a challenge to find Binky, that in all probability he wouldn't be there, that they'd have to talk to the other volunteers and try to get information. They might even have to pretend to be interested in gardening, but this was not the case. They immediately spotted Binky because he was being attacked by 2 elderly volunteers. They could tell they were volunteers because they were wearing community garden T-shirts with the word volunteer in large block print on the back. But matching T-shirts and their senior age were the only thing that these 2 had in common. One was a short, thin, white man with neatly trimmed hair wearing precisely pressed chinos. The other was a large black woman who, judging from her accent, came from somewhere in Africa. Her hair was woven into a thick braid and her pants featured a bold floral print. On closer inspection, this odd couple were not actually trying to assault Binky, although they certainly were by any legal definition. They were trying to assault each other, while Binky struggled to hold them apart. "Let me at that man," demanded the woman. "Let me teach him the difference between wrong and right." "Mrs. Dubra, Mr. Thomas, you know the rules," pleaded Binky. "Fighting is not allowed in the garden." "Neither is stealing, and yet he has robbed me blind," accused Mrs. Dubra. "How dare you!" yelled Mr. Thomas. He was clearly very emotional, which was at odds with his very prim English accent. "You are the one who has behaved shamelessly. I don't mind you abusing me, I'm used to it, but how dare you attack my veg?" "I will not hesitate to attack you, you pestilent man," said Mrs. Dubra, swinging her trowel around behind Binky. She missed her target and whacked Binky on the bottom instead. "Ow!" said Binky. "Mrs. Dubra, you know you're not allowed to touch me there." "If you don't want me to whack it, then get your bottom out of my way so I can deal with him properly," said Mrs. Dubra. "Can we help?" asked Friday. "Friday!" exclaimed Binky. "Mel!" He let go of Mrs. Dubra and Mr. Thomas, lunged forward and gave Melanie a big hug. "I've missed you so much," said Binky. "Then why did you run away?" asked Melanie. Perhaps we can resolve that in a minute," said Ian. "I think we need to deal with these two first." They turned back to the fighting couple. Mrs. Dubra had Mr. Thomas in a headlock. He was trying to loosen her chokehold with one hand and bashing her with a freshly uprooted beetroot with the other. "Both of you, stop that! You're going to get in trouble," pleaded Binky. He hurried over to separate them again. "Do I have to call the police?" "They won't come," said Mr. Thomas. "They never take vegetable-related crimes seriously." "Perhaps I can be of assistance," said Friday. "I am a private investigator and consultant with Interpol. If you explain the problem to me, I might be able to sort it out for you." Mrs. Dubra and Mr. Thomas stopped trying to injure each other for a moment while they took a long look at Friday. "You look like you're 15, said Mr. Thomas. "I am 15, said Friday. 16 next month, said Melanie. "Oh, really?" said Binky. "Happy birthday, Friday." "They let children join Interpol?" asked Mr. Thomas. "That sounds like child labour." "I guess it is," said Friday. "I approve of child labour," said Mrs. Dubra. "There should be more of it. Young people these days are too lazy for their own good. All that time staring at electronics in their hands. They should be out working." "You're not a believer in universal education, Mrs. Dubra?" asked Melanie. "Not when they're only being educated by little ticky-tocky videos," said Mrs. Dubra. "I like her," said Ian. "You mind your manners," said Mrs. Dubra. "A boy your age has no business liking an angry old woman like me." "Yes, ma'am," said Ian. "So what is the problem?" asked Friday. "Things have gone missing from the vegetable beds," explained Binky. "That man stole my water leaf and my pigweed," accused Mrs. Dubra. "Why would I steal something called pigweed?" demanded Mr. Thomas. "Because it's delicious, and it is full of antioxidants," said Mrs. Dubra. "If you'd had more healthy veg when you were young, you might not have ended up so short." "I grew up with rationing in post-war England. Of course I didn't have enough vegetables. We didn't have enough anything," snapped Mr. Thomas. "That is no excuse to steal my vegetables now," said Mrs. Dubra. "I didn't steal them," said Mr. Thomas. "And just because you think I did does not give you an excuse to steal my vegetables in revenge." "Pah!" said Mrs. Dubra. "Why would I want to steal your scrawny greens?" "My spinach and my broad beans are the best in this community garden, and you know it," said Mr. Thomas. "I can buy spinach from any grocery store," said Mrs. Dubra. "I'm not committing a felony for a vegetable that costs 99 cents a bag." "And no one ever found out who took my pumpkin back in the autumn," said Mr. Thomas. "Maybe it was the birds," said Binky. "Or squirrels. It might be a big city, but there's a lot of wildlife here in New York." "Could have been rats," said Ian. "It was a 25-pound pumpkin," said Mr. Thomas. "I know the rats in New York are big, but they're not so big they could carry off a 25-pound pumpkin." "But there's no way Mrs. Dubra could have done it," said Binky. "The veg has been going missing at night. She doesn't have a key to the gate." "Then she broke in," said Mr. Thomas. "That's ridiculous," said Binky. "Mrs. Dubra can't have climbed over the fence." "And why not?" asked Mrs. Dubra. "Do you think that I cannot climb that fence?" Ah, said Binky. He glanced at the 10-foot-high cyclone wire fence, and then he glanced at Mrs. Dubra. Well, climbing a high fence is not usually something a lady of your senior status would do. Are you saying I am old? Demanded Mrs. Dubra. Oh, no, said Binky. I'm too frightened to. Are you saying I am fat? Demanded Mrs. Dubra. Oh, goodness, no, said Binky. I would never say that, no matter how true it may be. I have too much respect for you to ever do that. It's just that it's such a high fence, and with pointy, scratchy wire bits at the top. The idea of a lady of your dignity and importance doing something so undignified horrifies me. If you ever do need to climb over the fence to steal food, Mrs. Dubra, please let me know, and I'll climb over the fence for you. I knew you were on her side, accused Mr. Thomas. OK, can you just stop fighting for 1 minute, said Friday. Mrs. Dubra did not steal the vegetables. Of course I did not steal my own vegetables, said Mrs. Dubra. He did, that little rat man. No, Mr. Thomas didn't either, said Friday. I have a great deal of respect for senior citizens in general, and for you two in particular. I've only known you for 4 minutes, but your enthusiasm and energy are impressive. But you are old, and that is a high fence, and I do not believe either of you could climb it without falling down and getting a serious head injury. So you're saying the veg stole themselves? Demanded Mrs. Dubra. Of course not, said Friday. That would be illogical. Friday's never illogical, said Melanie. She's just silly and in an impeccably logical way. So it was the squirrels? Asked Binky. No, said Friday. Think about the vegetables that were stolen. Spinach, pumpkin, broad beans, or fava beans as they're known, as well as waterleaf and pigweed, also known as amaranth. Sounds like a nice curry, said Ian. He knew a lot about vegetables because his mother was a vegetarian and a very avid gardener herself. Exactly, said Friday. They are all ingredients commonly used in West African cuisine. Nigeria is in West Africa. She told me she was Nigerian, exclaimed Mr. Thomas. So she did do it. No, said Friday. Mrs. Dubra works here. She can grow any vegetables she wants. She doesn't need to steal them. But there is a West African restaurant at the end of the street. Late at night, if they're busy and have run out of ingredients, they're not going to be able to get pigweed and fresh fava beans from the local convenience store. Mr. Thomas gasped. So they helped themselves? That is shameful, declared Mrs. Dubra. I know the young man who owns that restaurant. He is going to pay for this. I'll call the police, said Mr. Thomas, taking the smartphone out of his pocket. Put that device away, you silly man, said Mrs. Dubra. I'm not letting any police officer enjoy the satisfaction of delivering his punishment. I expect to get full compensation for those vegetables, plus extra for emotional distress. You do? Asked Mr. Thomas. Oh, yes, said Mrs. Dubra. I'm going to make him pay us in free food. Come along. We shall see what he's going to cook for us for our dinner. I've never eaten West African cuisine before, said Mr. Thomas, hurrying after Mrs. Dubra. I can see that from your diminutive stature, said Mrs. Dubra. Don't worry, man. I shall soon fatten you up. We'll see if he wants more vegetables. He can make a donation to the community garden as well. Well done sorting that out, said Ian, as they watched Mrs. Dubra stride and Mr. Thomas scuttle down 134th Street together. They make a good couple. Now let's deal with the real problem, said Melanie. She bent over and picked up the beetroot Mr. Thomas had been using to fend off Mrs. Dubra, and whacked Binky across the head with it. Ow! Cried Binky. What do you think you're doing? She demanded, whacking him with the beetroot again. Mel, there's no need for that. Binky wrapped his hands over his head protectively. What are you doing here anyway? Have you run away too? I've done no such thing, said Melanie. I have schlepped across the Atlantic Ocean to find you. How dare you run away from home without telling anyone where you're going? You made the King of Norway very worried. And more importantly, I didn't get to be bridesmaid at your wedding. Melanie, I love you, and not just because you're my sister, but because you're a really good egg, said Binky. But I think I'm going to have to run away from you now. We're not ready to come out of hiding. Ha! You won't get far, said Melanie. Ian will tackle you. What? I will not, said Ian. I'm recovering from a serious head injury. That doesn't stop you kissing Friday, said Melanie. Kissing Friday and tackling Binky are not the same thing, said Ian. I can't go back, said Binky. Ingrid is relying on me. Binky, I can tell from the way your retinas are glancing about that you're trying to figure out the most effective way to dodge around the three of us, said Friday. Please don't do it. Melanie and I are not athletic enough to stop you. Speak for yourself, said Melanie. I've got 4 older brothers. Just because I don't care for sport or exercise or physical exertion in any form doesn't mean I don't know how to do it. Binky saw the steely glint in Melanie's eye and evidently decided his best chance at escape was running through Friday. He took off, and so did Melanie. Binky was wearing rubber boots, and he was ankle-deep in mud, so his acceleration was slow. He'd only taken 2 steps when Melanie landed cat-like on his back. He staggered another 2 steps and toppled forward, collapsing onto Friday and embedding her in the freshly watered zucchini bed. "Are these girls bothering you?" asked a middle-aged man emerging from the potting shed. His shirt said, "Garden Manager." "No, it's fine. It's just Binky's sister and her best friend," explained Ian. "They're having a family reunion." "Oh," said the garden manager. "It's important to let families work through their differences. Too many people bottle up their feelings. At least they're communicating." Melanie was bashing Binky about the back of the head with a beetroot again. "Do you have any idea how much you upset Mummy and Daddy?" demanded Melanie. "I thought they were skiing in Hokkaido," said Binky. "They never follow the news when they're skiing in Hokkaido." "That's beside the point," said Melanie. "If they could read a Japanese language newspaper, they'd be worried sick." "Can you please get off me?" said Friday. "I've got a parsnip stabbing me in the back." "We should go and talk about this somewhere private," said Ian, stepping in front of Binky. People on the street had stopped to see what the commotion was about. A couple of them had taken out their phones. 20 minutes later, they had all showered and were sitting around the tiny kitchen table in Binky's minuscule flat, 2 blocks away. Binky had loaned Friday and Melanie some of his clothes because there was no way they could get on the subway stinking of horse manure. Well, they could, but it wouldn't be polite. "Where's Ingrid?" asked Melanie. "I'm not telling," said Binky. And I'm going to leave it there because I don't want to have any more spoilers. But that's a chapter out of my new book, Friday Barnes in Plain Sight. And it's a mini mystery, so it's a little story in itself. And if you want to find out what happens in the rest of the book and what's really going on with Binky and Ingrid in New York, the book is now available as a physical book here in Australia. And I believe it's available as an ebook and an audiobook everywhere else in the world. And in a couple of months, it'll be distributed as a physical book everywhere in the world, and obviously your local bookstore, if you're in America, probably, or wherever, will not be stocking it on the shelves. But you'll be able to, in a couple of months, go into any bookstore and get your bookseller to order it for you. I know a lot of people don't realise that any bookstore can do that, but say you live somewhere that's got a Barnes and Noble or goodness, well, I'm trying to think of the name of a bookstore in England. It starts with W. Anyway, whatever your local bookstore is, if you go in there, the people behind the counter, they can order in a book for you from anywhere in the world. And these books will be distributed in England and America. So, yeah, you can do that. All right. Well, I hope if you are on holidays, your winter holidays here in Australia or summer holidays in the Northern Hemisphere, I hope you're having a great time. And I will be back next week with another story about Thor's hammer. All right. Take care. Until next time. Goodbye. Hello, it's me again. If you enjoyed listening to Bedtime Stories with R.A. Spratt, it would be really helpful if you could like, subscribe, follow, and or review the show on whatever podcast platform you're listening to now. Every little one of those digital affirmations helps, and the bigger this podcast gets, the more I can justify procrastinating from my real job to keep bringing these stories to you. Thank you.